Boom. We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Some nice backing up action for Bitcoin and some pretty big drops in the rest of the market. And this is across the board. I was actually thinking something last night that I wanted to go over first. This has nothing to do with markets, but it more has to do with sentiment. Let's start here. This is something I had been watching a few days ago, 2 days ago. Bank of Canada was the first G7 central bank to ease its interest rate policy. And often when I see things like this, I start to wonder, I'll give you an example. Let's take a look at Bitcoin here and the time frame for our thought process, because I think it was really important. Now, first off, Bitcoin's fallen right into its backing up action, almost perfectly to the falling range. So Bitcoin looks beautiful here. I do suspect the bull market is going to continue. I actually think that these are just deep LPS tests, which kind of sucks because I got taken out of one or two positions from a stop loss. So lost a bit there, which always kind of sucks when you trigger a stop loss and the market recovers in a very short period of time. But nonetheless, it's also good to have a stop loss there just in case it goes over any excess losses that you don't want to take. So first and foremost, everything looks good. Bitcoin looks good here. Perfect backing up action. If we go down to the 6 hour, it's even a little bit more noticeable here. We'll click into the 6. So we were looking up for some backing up action, and we got it. There it is. Equal supply signatures for both the up and the down range. Note you that the down range was actually a little stronger. This is usually what we would expect out of an LPS. Again, considering we have such strong volume and supply signatures moving up into this range. The backing up action here looks perfect. Now, there are other areas here where it's also very strong. The backing up action for TON, or the Telegram network here, was another really interesting one to watch because it fell all the way back down almost to its simple moving averages and recovered most of it in an instant. So the majority of all of TON's losses were recovered within 5 minutes of the drop effectively, which is good for TON. It shows a huge amount of strength in this particular asset. In other areas, we fell out of the trading range and then jumped right back in. Render was a great example. This is one of the positions I got taken out of. My stop loss is triggered down here at like 8.6. I really didn't think we were going to go all the way back down to test this. But there you go. That's what happened. But what I want to do is I want to talk about sentiment. And I want to use Bitcoin as an example on a much larger time frame. So in the previous bull market cycle, this moment here was... I want to express something. This is actually probably one of my favorite portions of this story, because this shows and highlights, I think, the fear and greed sentiment of humanity quite nicely. When Bitcoin fell to $3,500, it's because the pandemic was declared and everyone started to lock up. And at the very tippy top of the market, you can go back. I won't do it now, but you can go back and on or around October 28th, all the mask mandates started to come off, whether that was for airplanes, vaccine mandates were started to be lifted in Canada as well. So you have a peak fear, which is we're going into lockdown. Nobody knows what's happening at the very, very bottom of the market here for Bitcoin. And then the very top of the market also highlighted by now all of the mandates that were instigated in the early parts of March 2020, they were removed by, October 2021. So what does that mean? Well, this brings me back to this article that the G7 countries, or at least the first Canada, has started to ease its central bank rate. Now, again, I don't think the bull market is over, but these are the signs and signatures of something, of what was once uncommon knowledge becoming more common knowledge, and that the interest rates being lowered might actually be a signal that we're close to the top. Again, we've been saying this for a while. We're getting close to the top. We're so high up in the market compared to where we were. You should be more defensive. All of my last 5 email updates are all saying, be defensive in your market strategy here, just in case, because there's a lot of room for downside because of how high up we are. But this was another one that kind of hit Now, if you've been reading our newsletters in the early parts of this market cycle of where we are now, all the way back down here in November of 2023, I started producing email updates that were specifically focusing on excess deaths, the rise of excess deaths, and the drop in fertility rates that were taking place here. And that at the time was very uncommon knowledge. The massive rise in disability, which was another chart that we were looking at, was also uncommon knowledge. Disability increased by 100%. That's a multiple sigma event. It should not happen. So I think that when we go from here, where, all these people are dying for some unknown reason, to where we are today, where the likely cause of that is actually right in everybody's face. And I think that this is on MSN. These are the Telegraph. These are the largest. These are credible places for this data to be coming out. And to me, it feels similar to the mask mandate starting to be removed. It means that we're getting close to that all-time high, because what the uncommon knowledge of, hey, people are dying, we should start buying, go along literally everything in the market, because there's all these excess deaths that are taking place, which I said over and over again, like, you got to get into this sociopathic mindset. My question now, and this is a more of a philosophical one, is does the recognition of this maybe mean that we're close to the top, very similar to what we saw in the first part of 2021. The whole bull market of 2020, people are dying, disability has increased massively, nobody's paying attention, start going long. Because again, when there's blood in the streets, you should be buying. And this is a very difficult sentiment to understand, because it doesn't just mean when the candles are red. It means literally when people are dying in the streets, whether that's from war. And again, you can see another variation of this too, where on October 9th is the day we saw a 70% increase in Bitcoin's price. So here's October 7th. Here's a 70% increase in Bitcoin's price. When people are dying, you should start buying. But what is it? Is it now that people know why people are dying, is that the place to start selling? And part of me thinks yes. I've been closed out of a few of my positions anyways, so there's not much I don't want to really do anything there. Like that's done. But what it does bring me to, again, is this kind of understanding of the psychology of the market and the psychology of the market participants. Now, if we go back, we look at Bitcoin here, we've had a huge run up since my first newsletters around excess deaths started going up. We're up 300% in Bitcoin, which is just astronomical for regular times. So part of my question now is looking at this much closer. So let's go back to the 6 hour on Bitcoin. Again, this structure has not broken. It's still in a great place. Everything looks like it should at this particular moment. But this news, this realization, something we've been talking about for almost 2 years, longer. I really wish I was more vocal in the early parts of 2020. For those of you that were talking to me off camera, I didn't want to get banned from YouTube. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a data sleuth. And I didn't know how to properly present that data without getting kicked off. I think I've figured out how to do it now. But I just shied away from it because it wasn't our area of focus necessarily. In the background, again, in our private newsletter, we're very clear. People are dying, disability has increased massively, and we think we know why. And now this is what you're seeing on mainstream articles. So the Daily Telegraph, another one of these here, is now saying what was once the quiet part out loud. Daily Telegraph charging you to look at that fucking article. Absurd. But as you can see here, same thing. And this is what happened before, is as soon as the mask mandates, as soon as the people started to realize they had been conned and the ridiculousness that they were being asked to do was stupid, like you can eat on a plane, but you got to put your mask up. Like it was just total fucking nonsense, basically. And as people started to recognize that marked the market cycle high. I'm starting to feel like that these signs and indicators are also marking a market cycle high. I don't know if you guys caught Roaring Kitty's live stream this morning. It was interesting to see his P&L because he had I think it was like almost a $340 million position on GameStop that he had taken out with his calls. And his P&L sheet was fucking gangster. His P&L was up 175 million, down 275 million on the day. That's because GameStop had a 40% drop within that same period of time. So not a 40% drop in Bitcoin. Most of the assets we were interested in did not take a 40% drop, but definitely huge drops here. From render from the top of the range to the bottom, almost 20%. If we roll over here and just look at a bunch of the assets on the daily too, you can start to see it a bit more clearly. Everything in the red, multiple tens of percent, 20%. So how do I feel? I think this is most likely a buying opportunity. I don't think we're at the exact top yet, but I do believe that articles and headlines like this, I think the market cycle top will probably be indicated by, hey, Pfizer's going to court. Moderna's being taken to task. AstraZeneca is a non-existent company now because of all of the lawsuits. That, I think, will be the exact market cycle top. I think what we just witnessed, the things that were uncommon knowledge now becoming more common in the knowledge sphere, is marking how close we are to the top as well. So I think it's a really important one to remember. You can basically trade sentiment. Hey, we're locking up. Everyone be fearful. Literally buy everything that you possibly can. And then as soon as all the mask mandates and stay-at-home orders or vaccine mandates dropped, that was the exact top. So I think we're getting close to that. So I think my current prediction is that these headline articles show us that we're close to the top. But when these change to may have helped to definitely fucking caused it, there's no other if, ands, or buts. You should be very wary about this. And the medical literature starts to flip, that will be the top of the market. Until people realize that all of this is way fucking worse than you've imagined. Because I don't know if you guys have ever read any of Robert F. Kennedy's books. If he was lying, he would get sued. But he has so many citations and references there. It's irrefutable, basically. People like Peter Hotez, these are all scammers. Dr. Fauci, these are all scammers who worked for the biomedical military industrial complex. And both pharma and Moderna are basically sock puppets for the military industrial complex that were using them for biomedical weapons, dual vaccine research, whatever you want to call it. So I think we're close. I think we're much closer to the top than we were. And we're going to want to keep a close eye on things, because if these headlines change to may have helped to definitely fucking caused, which is the next one that will come, the next shoe to drop is this will change. The wording will change here. That will be the market cycle high. We don't even have to look at the charts. I don't think we could literally just chart the abstraction in what's uncommon knowledge to common knowledge. Anyways, just a quick thought I wanted to share there. Let's take a look at how the comments and question section are you doing. Is the bull run over? Would make sense with S&P topping out as well. I don't think it's quite over yet. Again, I think that until those articles change to less vague terminology, we are probably still in the area where the majority of people don't yet understand how fucking bad that actually is. I shared this with you guys back in the early parts of this too. Again, I made multiple videos about this, saying this is fucking bad. Also, why we should be going long. But here, what's interesting is excess mortality is highest in the countries who had the most developed vaccine uptake system. The countries where they're the lowest were the European countries that did not have that. Sweden was one of the very early countries to come out and say, hey, this is stupid. We're not going to do any of this shit. And they've done the best. So just a quick, the Mortality Watch here is a great website. Let's see if we have another great visual chart of excess mortality. Yeah, this was the one I liked. Excess mortality. In 2021, you had 32%. 2020, let's mark some of these up. I swear I had a better chart here before. Which one was it? Was it in ranking? Yeah, here we go. Look how bad this is. Bulgaria, 18% excess deaths. In 2022, it was 16%. In the United States, it was 12.9%. That is huge. Those are huge numbers. So now, again, in early 2020, we started talking about this, and now as it's becoming more common knowledge, the federal or FRED data around disability was another huge one. Also, the data that Edward Dowd was sharing about the actuarial data as well. So here again, notice to the right of the screen, let's just show in the data right now. On the left of the screen, you've got 2017, 2020, excess or disability actually dropped dramatically. Now you could make an argument that that's because some of the people who had a disability were more likely to die because they were prone to death to begin with. So disability dropped to a frequent low. And then excess disability or disability for those 16 years and over more than doubled. And this is a dramatic rate of change. This is not subtle. This is a dramatic rate of change where you go from an average of 29 million people on disability to all of a sudden 33 million, 34 million people now on a disability. These are stark numbers. We started talking about this. This was the reason to go, again, to basically long in 2020. And now I think as people start to recognize that one of the greatest miscarriages of the medical anything is taking place, you're going to have a hard time recovering from this one. I had posted about this in the private group as well. I talked, and on Twitter, I made a brief post about it too. If you look back in Mao Zedong China and the revolutions against science, I was always confused on how that would happen. How can you get the large majority of people to be anti-science? And this is how you do it. You poison them with genetic manipulation experience, excess deaths and mortality. You basically poison them, and now the average person has no reason and should not trust the government or the medical literature, because the medical literature is probably at best 60% fucking false or fraudulent due to the pharmaceutical company's interests and weight and finger on the scale there. So if 60% of the science that you get is false, that means everything from climate change to the things that are positive in vaccines, you're being lied to at a scale that is unimaginable. And most people don't have the data skills to actually go in and look and do the research to find out that they've been lied to. And I think that that's what this market cycle top is going to look like, is the realization in the common knowledge sphere that you have been poisoned by your governments on fucking purpose. The video's lagging? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's see here. I can't. How am I in a big city and the internet's not working? I literally can't find good fucking internet anywhere. I'm upset about that. Is the video lagging? Let's see. Maybe I can find a better stream setting. Low latency. Oh, because I'm already live, I can't change it. So these are the things that we're watching. It's not just about the charts. It's also about common informational knowledge around the things that most people don't know about. And as they become better informed and more aware, you see the shoes start to drop. These are the articles that look like we're close to a top. Not lagging for you. Okay, cool. So it's just sometimes, I'm glad. I was like, yeah. So just to reiterate again, I don't think that this is the market. I don't think the market is over. Bitcoin looks very healthy here. It was a backup that we're looking at. Some of the other assets we are interested in definitely hit stop losses for me. But these could just be deep LPS ranges, which kind of sucks because that means I got removed from positions that will probably end up still being positive. Again, I like how deep Ton's drop was here. You had on the day a 12 to 13% drop, and then almost an instant recovery of a 10% within a few hours. Let's take a look at the 15-minute here. Not looking great, though, for TON. If we can't get back above some of these slow-moving averages, I do suspect we'll see more downside. But for now, as long as Bitcoin stays above this falling range here for its backup, it looks perfect to me. Let's take a look at the S&P 500 as well, another area where we like to get a bunch of data from for the potential sentiments of the market. S&P 500 didn't drop at all, which is actually spectacular. We did see a nice breakout of the S&P 500, and I do suspect that we're going to see a backup phase. The rest of the market is seemingly leading that backup phase. If the S&P 500 comes back down, tests the top of this range, and continues to bounce, which I suspect it will, that's where Bitcoin will start to take reactionary movements as well. But for some of the other assets, it's clear there was a massive amount of liquidity but hidden in there. But also, it's good to note that from where we started making posts about go long everything because people are dying at an exaggerated rate and nobody knows what's going on, you're still up 600% on some of these. So even higher on a few others. Near and Fetch are up almost 10x. But again, I threw Fetch hit my stop loss right at the bottom of the trading range this morning, so I didn't lose much there. I got dinged on render though, that's for sure, because I thought we were going to stay within this falling range. But again, it could be that this was just the market spring of this falling LPS range before we see that breakout and recovery for render as well. So I'm still largely bullish in my sentiment. But these market titles, I think, speak volumes to where we are in the market cycle as well. So just for fun, we can do that. Let's take a look at the fear and greed indicator here. Bitcoin, fear and greed, market cycle, fear and greed index from our friends over at Look Into Bitcoin. Nice. Yeah, we're hitting right at the top of the range. I'm worried about these titles. These titles tell me that we're near a top. Yeah, and I was thinking that last night. I was like, damn, does everybody now recognizing excess deaths being caused by the genetic experiments mean that we're near a market cycle top? Probably. Maybe better than technical analysis is just fundamental street analysis. Do people know what's going on or not? If they don't, then go long. As soon as they do, get the fuck out of the market. Anyways, I would be, like I said in all my previous newsletters, it's good to be defensive here. That's why my stop loss is triggered. It didn't lose a lot, which is nice. But also some of them recovered right back to where they were. So I took a loss I didn't need to on some of those profits. But better safe than sorry with a plan that's this late in the market, especially when we see how deep the drop here was for Fetch, over 20%. This could mark the market cycle top. So again, if you're in positions that you are that are in profit, when I say stop loss, some of those stop losses were in profit. So stop loss and profit taking can be the same thing, just less profit, I guess. But S&P 500 is still holding up strong here. Again, I suspect we're going to see a backup phase very similar to what Bitcoin did. And then from there, we'll know more. But as we see more and more market cycle taglines like this, I'm much more worried that we are at the top of this market, because when we started making these posts, nobody believed us, basically. In early 2021, 2022, a lot of the data we were sharing, like I made a few videos about why you should not trust science and how the majority of the profit will skew data. Profit has always skewed data. There's no reason to think that profit won't skew academics or anything as well. And now I'm so grateful for some of the most prolific scientists like Peter Corey, Pierre Corey, Peter McCullough, Stephanie Stephanie Rose. It's just a handful of people who did amazing data in the early parts of 2020. I think that should have given everyone the warning signs that they needed here to recognize why excess disability and excess deaths are so high right now when they clearly shouldn't be. Anyways, Canada Bank cuts rates. Disability still at a staggering multiple sigma event higher than it should be. And excess deaths are now being blamed on the genetic experiments. So great. Everybody's starting to recognize what actually fucking happened. Cool. Let's open it up to some of your guys' thoughts or questions on the YouTube channel. If you want to drop some questions, ask me if I want to take a look at something. I wanted to do a live just because I thought it would be fun. But yeah, it's keeping a close eye on Bitcoin's backup range here. If we start to break and then close below this range, this would turn into distribution. Although this micro SOS here, I still think this is the likely scenario here, is that we are in a micro SOS, we're in the backup phase right now and about to continue higher. So, but I think that market sentiment continuing higher is going to be pockmarked by articles that go from may have caused excess deaths to definitely fucking caused excess deaths, and now they're being sued out the yin yang. And companies like Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna shouldn't exist by the end of this, because they're frauds. Yeah, there's no easier way to say it. They're frauds. So, anyways, what really happened? Great question. Again, we were expecting a backup phase for Bitcoin here into this. I mentioned that in yesterday's video. We were looking for a backup to the top of this range, which we got perfectly. It just sent significantly deeper shockwaves down the other assets we were watching before. Yeah, because I didn't think we were going to go this. I didn't think we would hit my stop loss and render at all. But that's the way it goes. One of you guys is asking for FTM. Let's take a look at FTM on Binance here. Yeah. This does not look as nice. There's no clear indication on the trading range here. The previous trading range was perfect, basically. This one, not so much. There's a lot of hidden liquidity here on these previous drops. It's hard to say. See, this makes me think we're already at the market cycle top is when I look at something like this. But you can't compare them. It's not fair. Bitcoin's still the leader in this place. I would rather look at Bitcoin and make an assumption about the rest of the market. The assumption about the rest of the market is that we're still bullish. But if we start to break below this and this $67,000 area for Bitcoin, here, I'll go back to FTM on the chart because I don't think I was sharing the screen. Okay, so here you go. Screen share on Phantom. This doesn't look great. This looks like distribution potentially, whereas the previous trading range was like a flawless reaccumulation, a perfect horizontal range almost, basically. This looks a little dirty. Lots of liquidity here drawn out, but it's this doesn't look as good. Bitcoin looks fine. It gives me hope that the rest are probably going to continue to do well here, but. Just be weary, or be capital defensive in these particular places. Render looks like a perfect maybe LPS here. Couldn't slice through, but again, if we start to see closes below this trading range, oh my God, we could go way lower. We could reset all of the oscillators, but I'm still bullish, even after that. I'm not going to re-enter some of those positions though, just because I got taken out of them. So there's that. Okay. We'll leave it there. Thank you guys. Steve with the Arcane Bear. I appreciate your support. We'll catch you guys again on the next episode.